Hey everybody, Alonzo here with GulfCoastSmoke.com, and today I want to talk about why I love my Weber kettle so much. So if you're looking to get into grilling or barbecuing and you don't have a lot of money, or you just don't have a lot of experience and you want to start slow, I really think that the Weber kettle is a great tool for you to put in your backyard so you could start learning and growing as a cook. Now, before I go any further, I want to let you guys know this is not sponsored by Weber. They have never given us any item that we own, and we have a lot of Weber items. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I know sometimes people think when I promote stuff that they paid me off or something like that, and it's just not like that. We love kettle style cooking. We have a lot of grills. We have a Traeger. We have an offset smoker. We have just all sorts of stuff, and we always come back to the Weber kettle because it's simple and because you can do so many things with it. I want to talk about those things today, and if you guys are interested, I want to help you guys know that this is the right tool for you. Okay, so this is my 22.5-inch Weber kettle. This retails for $239.99. I just looked it up, and I've had this for quite some time. Now, I do have another Weber kettle, and that sits on the 3 legs. You'll notice that this is on a table. This is not typical. My dad built this for me, so thanks to my dad for doing that, but my other kettle stays at his house, and that does stand on those 3 legs. I believe that's a Weber patent. They say that it's supposed to be more sturdy that way, but don't quote me on that. Now, this is a very, very simple device. So I'm going to take the lid off here, and you'll notice that I have my grate. Now, one of the things that I do want to mention is that not all the things that I have on this kettle are stock. So this grate right here is a spinning grate from SNS Grills. They sent it out to me, so they did supply me with that. I will let you guys know that, but I really like this thing because it spins and it makes for easy indirect cooking, and also it has a hinge here to where it allows you to add more charcoal if you're using some other devices, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But this is not the standard Weber kettle grate, and under my cooking grate is a charcoal grate. So this just sits here. This is where all the hot coals go when you're cooking. And then under here, you'll see that there's those 3 blades. And this is called the Easy Touch system. So there's actually a little lever down here where you can move these blades around, and that allows for all of the ashes to go into the hole. And there's actually a little basket down there that catches all of those. We'll show you guys that here in just a second. But overall, you can see that the design on this Weber kettle is extremely simple. Oh, put that backwards. The design is extremely simple, and there's really nothing to it. So now we'll talk about a few things on this Weber charcoal grill that make it go and make it versatile, at least in my opinion. So you saw the ash clean out system, you saw the blades that push the ash into the ash bucket at the very bottom, but if you actually adjust those blades to cover the holes on the bottom, it makes for the intake to not be able to get as much oxygen, and you could keep those fires a lot lower, whereas if you keep them all the way open, there's going to be a lot of oxygen and a lot of air down there, and that's going to get your coals really hot. So obviously you'd want to close those down if you're doing a longer low and slow cook, or you'd want to bust them wide open. You'd want to bust them wide open if you guys wanted to do something hot and fast, like a steak, like some fajitas, or just whatever you like to cook hot and fast. Now on the lid, you have some vents on top that you can adjust if you'd like. Most of the time, I honestly leave them all the way open. I typically don't touch them at all. And there's also a thermometer that's on this lid. If I'm being honest, I don't trust the thermometer pretty much at all, so I don't really look at it. I never, ever go off of that temp at all. If I need to be precise, I'll grab my ThermalWorks smoke and I'll get a temperature that way. But I mean, it is cool to have a roundabout temperature, but like I said, we've actually done a small video on it to where we were way off. I mean, like, if I'm not mistaken, I think we were between 50 and 75 degrees off from this temperature gauge to the smoke alarm. So just keep that in mind when you're buying this. It is a very inexpensive grill, and that's going to come along with some things on it, some things, not all, that are just not up to par. And if you really want to take your smoking to the next level, you're going to want to invest in other things. But I'm telling you, I don't look at this temperature gauge at all, and I don't even worry about what the temperature is. I just like to control the fire in there with my briquettes or with my lump charcoal, and then I just worry about taking my time, being patient, and putting out a good product. And now that we've talked about the Weber Kettle, I want to move on to some of the tools that I really think you need to have for that Weber Kettle. There's only two that I truly believe that you absolutely need to have, but we'll talk about a little bit more in a little bit that I think are good to have, but they're not necessary. So the first thing that I think you need is a charcoal chimney. Now, the reason I think you need this charcoal chimney, because if you did just start grilling, if this is the first grill that you've ever had, you might be a little bit uneasy about starting a fire. Lighter fluid can cause really large flare-ups, and this is a very simple tool to use. You can use fire starters, you can use newspaper, you can use whatever you'd like, but you're gonna put that right under this charcoal chimney. There's a little spot where you could put them. Then you'll put it on the ground in your kettle, wherever you want, and you're gonna fill this chimney all the way up with briquettes or with lump charcoal. Now, you'll know that it's ready to rock whenever all of the coals are completely lit, and that's gonna give you a hot fire. So if you throw that in your Weber kettle, you're not gonna be smoking, you're going to be grilling. So if you wanna smoke something, you're gonna wanna put significantly less briquettes or lump charcoal in there, just to make sure that you can get other coals lit and started in your Weber kettle. On to the next tool that I absolutely think you need for your Weber kettle. This is an aluminum pan. Now, there's all shapes and sizes. You can get them at H-E-B if you're in Texas. You can get them Walmart, all over the place, Academy, or any outdoor spot. But I think that these are really important, and I want to show you why. So I've got the pan right in the middle of the Weber kettle, and this acts as a multi-purpose pan. So if you look at the bottom here, you'll see that it fits pretty perfectly. There is a smaller pan that I don't have on me that I think fits even better. It's actually made by Weber. I think they probably made it for this, but this right here can act as a water pan. So if you want to throw some water in there, if you're doing something low and slow, that'll give you the moisture inside of your Weber kettle. And that other one that's a little bit better of a size, you can kind of put it to one side, and then you can create yourself a spot right here where you light the coals on this side, and that's going to give you a lower and a slower cook. Also, with the water in here, it's going to allow for these coals to burn a little bit slower. And another thing is, this catches a lot of the mess that would come from the meat that you're cooking. So that's going to keep your kettle a little bit cleaner, and it's going to allow you to keep it for a lot longer. And now that we've talked about the two items that I think you truly need in order to be successful on your Weber kettle, I want to start talking about some that are not necessary, but they're great to have. I don't want anyone to think that we're pushing items on you or pushing products, but these are really cool. And again, I don't think you need anything else besides that charcoal chimney and a foil pan that you could get anywhere. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is the Sloan Sear. This is the Sloan Sear Deluxe. You guys will see that there's a few pieces in here, and the biggest one right here is the charcoal basket. If you guys wanted to do a hot and fast cook, you could throw some hot coals in here, or if you wanted to do a low and slow cook, you could start some coals on one end and they would slowly burn to the other side. And the other piece in this Sloan Sear that you guys saw is a water reservoir. So if you put some hot, not boiling water in that reservoir, it makes for a very even cook, and it can give you a really long smoke. We've done a lot of videos with this Sloan Sear, and I'll tell you what, it really is a great tool to have. But one more time, you don't need anything more than what we showed you guys before. I'll show you where this goes in the Weber kettle right now. The Sloan Sear fits perfectly in this Weber kettle because originally it was designed for a Weber kettle. So S&S Grills now makes their own kettle, and it also fits perfectly in there, but you can see that this thing fits like a glove. Now, like I was saying earlier, this can create two zones for you. So if you put all your hot coals in here, you have a direct zone and you have an indirect zone. So if you wanted to make some chicken, you could grill it over the direct zone, and then you can move it indirect to finish a little bit slower. If you put this water reservoir in here, you're going to fill it up. You're going to leave about an inch, and then you're going to put all of your coals in here, except for maybe you're going to leave a little bit of space right here, and then you'll put about 10 lit coals, and that's going to give you a long, consistent, and even cook time here. Like I said, we have done a lot with this thing, and it's really versatile. You could get a long cook out of this. It's definitely a tool that I love having. Once again, I did get this sent to me. I did not pay for it, but it really is something that since I started smoking, since I started using my Weber kettle, I promise you, we always wanted it. The next thing we'll talk about is charcoal baskets. Now, you could get Weber charcoal baskets. I actually didn't. I got these on Amazon because they were a little bit heavier duty, but I honestly don't really use these anymore, like at all. So since I have the Sloan Sear, you could see that these are pretty small in comparison, and you know, I don't really think I have too much use for them. I used to use them a little bit like this in order to have hot coals, and then an indirect zone right in the middle. At one point, I actually was using my rotisserie attachment like this as well. But again, I don't think that you need these. And honestly, I don't even remember the last time I used these, but I see a lot of people using them, and I think that there's a time and a place for them. But my Sloan Sear took these over, and it pretty much retired them. And our last fire management tool is going to be the Vortex. The Vortex is pretty self-explanatory just based off of how it looks. The one thing you want to do is you want to fill it all the way up with your charcoal. Then you'll put a fire starter right in the middle, and you'll wait for these coals to get nice and hot. Now from here, you're going to want to put your food around the Vortex. This is not going to give you a direct cook, but all of this heat hits the lid, and then it creates a convection, and it's going to be a hot convection. You can get really nice crispy chicken wings. You could do burgers. You could do a lot of different things. I really like this for chicken wings and or like chicken legs. The skin turns out really, really awesome. We don't use the Vortex too much anymore. We used to use it a lot, but I'm more into direct grilling now or two-zone fire cooking, but I still think this is something cool to talk about and something cool to have if you're interested. The last thing I want to talk about with this Weber kettle is this raised rack. So this raised rack is really cool because it allows for a little bit of expansion on your Weber kettle. So you'll notice that obviously it does not take up the whole grate here, but it does give you a completely different section. So let's just say you got burgers down here, you want to put some bacon wrapped asparagus, or what I did the other day was I put a hot fire down here, and then I put some bacon wrapped pickles right here. So I got a little bit of flare up from that bacon grease, but the fire wasn't directly touching that bacon. So I like this a lot. This cost about $30. I think it's very, very well worth it. It does give you some more cooking space on your Weber kettle, but I think that this adds enough for me to justify spending that $30. So that's really all that we have on the Weber kettle. We love our Weber kettle. I mean, if you guys look at our channel, most of our cooks are on our Weber kettle. I'm staring at a custom TMG offset, and I don't even use it nearly as much as I use this. Even since we got that, we're focusing more of our cooks on this Weber kettle. And the reason being is because we feel like most Americans, most people in the world, it's an attainable grill. We want to show you guys that you can put out great products on this Weber kettle. If you have any questions about it, drop them in the comments below. If you want to see us cook anything in specific, drop it in the comments below. We might have already done it. I'll reply to you with a link to that video. But if we haven't done it, we would definitely love to put it out there for you guys. I want to show you guys how amazing this grill is. One more time, this is not a sponsored video. Weber is not affiliated with us. I am not affiliated with Weber. I would love to be one day, but that's just not the case. And if you guys enjoyed a video like this, let us know by subscribing, liking, all that cool stuff, or not, doesn't matter. Thanks for being here. As always, I really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Thanks. I'm going to show you the other Webers that we have real quick in the outro. We'll see you on the next one.
Move my body.